One of my jobs was at EUCOM, at the European Command, and I was a joint staff officer there, and my mission, well, what my job was the Director of Humanitarian and Civic Assistance Programs. So long title for basically every time a military unit would head to Africa or Eastern Europe, they would take engineers and doctors with them, and we wanted to increase their training potential, what they could do, and then also have an impact, a positive impact on the lives of the communities that they would visit. One of the first ones I helped plan and helped fund was an Air Force unit was going to Morocco to support an Army unit that was conducting training with Moroccan armed forces, but the Air Force hospital was going. So we bought supplies to do dental work and cleft palate surgeries and reset broken bones and diseases and shots and everything else. But one of the things they did was vision. They did an eyeglass distribution, and I'd worn glasses my whole life, so I was really drawn to go to take a look at this. And as a professional logistician, I watched this and I was like, this is horrible. This is so inefficient. No one gets 20/20 in both eyes. People are picking the frames that they want as opposed to the glasses that they need. Yeah. There's no barrier, there's no language exchange going on. It's just a big phoropter going on the eyeball. They get the prescription and here you go, this is what you need. And there's no verification, there's nothing. And I just thought, that phoropter is not 100%. You don't necessarily end up with what your real prescription is. If you focus in the wrong spot as they're hitting the trigger, and you don't know if they are, it'll give you a completely different reading based on the flexibility of your lens. So that really bothered me, and I started to look at other solutions, and that's kind of how I got involved in the vision distribution business. So Josh Silver was the inventor of fluid-filled eyeglasses and really is the father of self-refraction, the ability of the patient to dial their own prescription in. And that sort of sparked my interest, why I came up with something else. Well, essentially, so when I retired in 2009, Josh and I had stayed in touch, and he said, you've given away 40,000 pairs, your program has, the need is 2.5 billion. How do we solve this on a global scale? And so I did, again, put my logistician hat on and said, okay, these are the distribution networks I think you can use. And he looked at it and said, looks great. And he handed it right back and said, why don't you do that? Although Josh's eyeglasses worked and they solved the problem, they weren't aesthetically pleasing. People really didn't want to wear them. I could get 75-year-old men to wear them. I couldn't get 17-year-old men or 18, or 25-year-old women they were just these big round glasses. They were 6 or 7 millimeters thick. Increased and decreased silicon pressure changed the shape of the lens, so you had these Coke bottle looking things on. 2013, I'm sitting at my kitchen table and I said, there's got to be a better way that we can have the patient prescribe it. So we keep that educational threshold down to 2 hours. So the educational threshold being the person that is the refractionist, puts the patient in the right spot, the right distance, gets the right measurements, and then makes it possible for that patient to dial in correctly and get their prescription. So still do that with 2 hours of training, yet end up with a pair of real eyeglasses. And that's when I came up with my device, my invention. Well, I came up with a device that followed the same principles, but ended up with a pair of snap-together eyeglasses. And then in 2014, I made a device and tested it on my kids, and it worked great. 2015, I started clinical trials at the Wilmer Eye Institute, and we finished those up last year. So we were published this year, so it's been clinically trialed now, and we have good data on the fact that it works. So the first thing we do is we test the patient's vision with an E-chart, and I use an E-chart for the language barrier. An E-chart is essentially you would point to the letter E, and then the patient would tell you which direction it goes. And as you go down the chart, it gets harder and harder to see. So as they roll down, then you go across and verify. So as long as they're passing each line, you keep going until they see. And if they can see to this line about 20/30, then they generally don't need eyeglasses. And if they see down here, then they for sure don't. But if they start failing up here, that's when we say, okay, we can help correct their vision. And once they need eyeglasses, then we put on the UC. So the UC this is my invention, and it goes from -6, it's just a lens bar that goes from -6 diopters to +6, and you limit the patient to this very small viewing aperture, and the patient just turns the dial. So they'll cover one eye and turn the dial until they see clearly, and then they'll cover the other eye and they'll do the same thing. They'll turn it until they see clearly. And then on here you'll get some readings. Red 1, 2, 3, 4, green 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yellow 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So all of the powers are indicated with a color and a number. So once you have their prescription, like that product placement. So if they were a red 4, we'd grab a red 4 and a green 1 on the right side, you have the lenses that you need. Then you reach back into your magic bag, you pull out a set of frames. And these lenses just pop out, and then you would take the lens that correlates to the right power, and you just line it back up, line up the new lens, and work it around, and it snaps in. So right now we're packaging them pretty simply. We're doing 21 dozen, so 252 frames, 280 sets of lenses, a near chart, a far chart, everything else for about $1,000. So it comes out to about $4 per patient. But we are looking to do, fundraising for, like, we have a project, and we want to do a project in Mozambique, for instance. You can sponsor a high school. So a high school needs one kit. So for $1,000, you can sponsor this kit that's going to this high school. So do things like that and directly relate where I'm giving my money to where it's going and where it's ending up. And then, we'll start posting pictures of that high school, and you say, hey, I was part of that. I helped those kids get their eyeglasses.
So what's your biggest challenge?
The biggest right now, it's getting the word out. It's getting noticed that we're a solution that is viable, has been tested both in the clinic and in the field, and then getting noticed by the big players. The Catholic Relief or World Visions or the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They generally aren't the type of organizations that you go knock on the door and say, hey, I'm here. So we're getting some press, we're getting some not notoriety, but some visibility, and just hoping that hoping is the wrong word, but we're hoping to get noticed and then get that inquiry come in so that we can say, hey, yes, we are a viable solution. And you want to put it in every hospital that you run, whichever organization you are, or any distribution that you do, we will be ready for that.